Dearest Mr. Dingle, it has been some time since I last saw you, and I thought that it might be good to try to catch up with you doing this. So what has happened in my life since the last time I saw you? Well, first of all, my beloved Oilers continue to be just promising enough to frustrate me and not quite promising enough to provide any real hope or win games. On the other hand, the Canadians, your team, are doing a little bit better. Not great, but, not last place in their division. A great deal, however, has happened in our country, and let's take a look at that, shall we? First of all, our environmental record has been dragged through the mud, or more accurately, it has been dug up from the mud. Maybe the tar sands aren't good for the environment. So yeah, the Canadian flag, not real popular internationally right now. It also turns out that we may have been handing over some Afghan nationals in our attempt to bring democracy to that country to people who torture them. It also happens that our government doesn't really want to talk about that. Despite attempts by opposition parties to continue uncovering truth about this, and the chief diplomat in Afghanistan's accusations that he told the defense ministry that this was happening and directly contacted the Minister for Defense's offices to tell them this, they just don't want to look into it at all. In fact, members of the governing party have not actually even been showing up for the committee meetings where they're supposed to be sorting this out, leaving a whole bunch of opposition guys sitting around going, "Can we leave yet? Because they're not coming." And they have the balls to say that they can't work with the opposition. It seems to me like the goal here ought to be to get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible, because if we want to be supportive of the members of our armed forces who are abroad, we should be trying to clear their names. Thirdly, Parliament has been prorogued again. Yeah. I can see how this might be a useful political move for Mr. Harper, but Dingle, I have no idea how this is going to help you and me. I don't understand how parliamentarians not being in Parliament is useful for running a country. Do you really care if there are 5 more Conservative senators in the Senate? I really don't think that it's necessary to leave Ottawa for them to consult with Canadians about their views on the economy. And maybe if they were really interested in what the average Canadian had to say, they would have paid a little more attention to the polls that have been coming out recently that suggest that Canadians are twice as likely to strongly oppose proroguing Parliament as they are to support it. But in the end, nothing's going to happen, because when they come back in March, no one's going to remember anything about proroguing, and even though 65% of the country voted for a party that was not conservative, and I mean that in like a small c general political spectrum kind of way, as opposed to the one right-wing party that we have in the entire country, nobody wants to have an election again, because that's too many. On top of that, by the time March comes around, not only are we going to not want an election, but the Conservatives are going to be rolling out the new Phase 2 of our economic action plan, which is, basically just depending on the fact that we were in better shape than most other countries in the world to begin with, and not setting the whole place on fire. So they're going to be rolling this plan out, and so they're going to look like giant heroic saviors of the economy at that point, while everyone's forgotten about proroguing and democracy and Afghani detainees and the fact that all these promises have been broken and something about political manipulation in order to get a few more senators in the Senate. So it's probably actually a really good political move. It just has nothing to do with running the country efficiently. I've often said that I like the idea of the people running my country to be smarter than me, and that Mr. Harper made me uneasy because I'm not sure that he is. I've now decided that he's probably at least as intelligent as I am, because I couldn't have come up with this kind of a political move. However, the way in which he is intelligent is in political manipulation, not in running a country. Anyway, Ben, I hope that becoming an actor in Toronto is working well for you, and if it isn't, then remember, you can always move back to the Maritimes and become a teacher, because that's everybody's backup plan as far as I can tell.